Hello, friends and fellow gamers, I am That Zero, and today we are back to Chen on some more Last Claudia. And on today's menu, we are going to be turning our gaze to multiplayer. We now have our third God Hall boss added into the game, along with a slew of more awesomely powerful pieces of gear for us to grind, and I'm super excited. Now, I have to start off by first saying, kudos, Adis. I never would have expected that alchemy and multiplayer would lead to this satisfying of engagement for me. I really didn't. I find myself in a situation very similar to back when I used to play games like Call of Duty, where if I just have like 5 to 20 minutes to spare just in between other things that I'm doing, I'm like, how about I just play a couple rounds? You know, that's basically multiplayer for me now. It doesn't take any energy orbs in order to join somebody else's game, and no matter what you're doing, the resources you're collecting are always progressing you. These three bosses, all great in my opinion. They add a level that is challenging, but I don't think too hard, at least if you are to a somewhat endgame perspective. It's close enough in the difficulty side that you can carry some players. It really encourages exploring with builds so that you're not just making the same thing for all of them. It really brings out my creative side of wanting to explore all of the units in my roster and then find the most optimal way to contribute in a fight, even if many of the other players don't quite know what's going on. So that is how I like to play. I could just do min-maxed on damage and just call it a day, but I want to make sure that I am maximizing the amount of drops that we can manage to get, as well as reliably win in some way. If there is something that causes people to die a lot or just struggle in certain areas maybe, I like to compensate for it in my units. So today I'm going to be going over my units I am using for these new multiplayer fights. So we're going to go through all three of the Godforge fights, and I am going to go over who I use in general for the limit break, because the limit break fields are all generally pretty easy in my opinion. So it's just about bringing a DPS unit, so it's not really that big of a deal, but I do use someone different in all four of these scenarios. So I want to go over each of their builds, and then I will have some segments for an actual run of each of these as well, so you can see how I'm actually utilizing them. So to start things off, we're going to do Inferno Lord Martigade. So this guy is pretty straightforward. He's probably one of the easiest bosses we've had, especially compared to the other Godforges, because the other ones have some sort of HP gate where you're just not allowed to do damage anymore. If you have enough big dick damage going on, you can just burn this guy down into oblivion, which is pretty great. Few things to know about this fight in general. He goes between multiple different modes and phases. The first time he switches to having reduced physical defense and having increased magic defense, or vice versa. I don't remember the order, but it alternates between the two about 3 times, I believe. And then after that, if the boss is not dead, which the goal is to kill it before, I think, the 3rd swap, because after that it starts doing a countdown where it is going to apply ailments. When they would be applying ailments, they go through all of it. They will silence, he will stun and curse and poison you, and it will be a bad day. If you are not compensating for resistances, it's gonna suck. Or you could just, for all of these fights, just run Yasodril. She's the best in the game. Yeah, I know that there's others that are cool or whatever, but Yasodril is the absolute best in my opinion. I don't think it's close. She can revive all of the other dead people when, you know, your blueberries are dying on you. And in a case like that, if all 4 players have every status ailment in existence, you pop Yasodril, it cures all of them and heals them. Great! So yeah, make sure if you're host, run Yasodril, like on all of these. The little bit of damage and stuff you're going to get from others, it's not good enough. It's just not. It's not even close. Run Yasodril, please, for all of them. All right, for this particular fight, I love using Medine, and for a few reasons. So Medine is really good for multiplayer stuff in general because you're elevating your team. If people aren't running something like Pirate Feast, her passive allows your other players in the party to be able to get some extra SET to be able to start DPSing the boss a little bit quicker. She also has inherently high crit chance because of just the things coming built in her kit, which means I don't feel bad about throwing out some crit support. And being ice is fantastic because it's the main element that this fire dragon is weak to. Not only that, one of the best DPS arcs in the game happens to do extra ice pursuit damage. Alright, so Icy Guardian, if you look down below me here, physical attack critical damage plus 40%, does not matter in the slightest. Our crits are going to be capping anyhow, we don't care. Physical attack criticals deal extra ice attack. That That is what we care about right there. This is an extra 40% damage, but not only that, we are going to be capping on every one of our crits because of all the multipliers we have going on. But the only damage calculation that goes through on pursuit attacks is elemental resistances. So that 40% is going to then go against whatever the weakness of the enemy is. And because it is weak to ice and this is ice damage, it's going to get multiplied again. So we are going to be doing insane amounts of damage because of this. Now, this isn't exclusive to Medine. This is just all critical attacks will do extra ice damage. If you are using Laugzeus and he's on a bit of a crit build, any sort of DPS who has crit built into them, in this fight, use your Icy Guardian. It is awesome. All right, on to Medine's actual build. So we are running Pure Blade at a plus 40. I previously was running the sword from Icy Guardian just so that I could get the ice attribute on my normal attacks. I like my normal attacks to be somewhat competent just because if the randoms that I pair with have absolute trash tier damage, I'm going to end up blowing my load and not have much else that I can do. And I want to make sure that I can still be doing some damage while my skills are recharging. So I want to make sure that I have a little bit of that. But Pure Blade is so damn good, it is just worth doing. It makes all of my non-crits even more consistent. If for some reason they wouldn't have been capping already, they seem to be doing much better here. And for doing that extra normal attack damage and in that sort of neutral game when you don't have your skills up, I have a few other things to compensate. So one, I have her Gunblade. Stats are not great on it, but it still does some nice stuff. So regular attacks deal an extra ice attack. I already said the extra ice damage, the pursuit attack from Icy Guardian, pretty great. So this says when I'm doing my regular attacks, all of the damage I'm doing, I believe I'm getting an extra 20% hit for ice damage, and then that is getting, again, increased based on the damage that I am doing from the elemental weaknesses. Not only that, its element is ice, which means all of the ice damage ups that Medine has is going to contribute into it. So the 50% of my hits from Gunblade are probably going to be hitting much harder than Pure Blade because it is getting the attribute weakness to their ice, and it is getting all of my ice boost, whereas the Pure Blade is only neutral damage. Then in that neutral game, again, this could go either way. I am using Dr. Faust just so that I can get some extra recharge on my skill. She's not much of a self-battery, but this kind of helps. Her regular attacks seem to work for this a little better than some other units that I've used it on, and so I like to use it. If you don't have this, I also really like running Thief Bangle. In addition, I like running Rabbit's Labyrinth, as you can see here. Physical attacks have a small chance to drop an item on crit, so she has a high crit chance, already playing into that, and I want to try to maximize these drops. So if I can get some drops on this stuff, especially because I'm not running Beast Hunter like I do with a lot of my other units, I want her to be able to do that. So if I'm not running Faust, I run Thief Bangle for a 10% chance on kill to be able to get them. But the thing is, if I'm paired up with Laugzeus and mainly Laugzeus, after that first wave, usually they're just one or two shotting everything anyway, and I'm not usually getting the final kill. So if I have to pick a preference, I go with Rabbit Labyrinth. That is for the gear. So let's go ahead and take a look at my skills. I'm running Weak. I've already talked about how the elemental weaknesses are really amping up our damage. If she's only going to run one spell, this is absolutely worth 3 SC, because there's a whole lot of supports in this game. If you just have a Theria in your party, it seems like they don't know how to build debuffs usually. A good Theria is going to have her bases covered. She's not going to be God healing like Ho that just wastes everybody's time. She's going to be having some non-time stop AoE healing to be able to give barriers and heal everybody. She's going to have debuffs like Blazer, Drain, and Weak, things like that. I mainly care about Weak here. Drain, totally good to throw on too. So if you have 2 SC, good to throw in here as well. Then I am opting for Moonsaber over Proud Force. I have found that anybody that utilizes regular attacks well can use this. For your build, if you were not around for the Secret of Mana collab and you did not have access to this SR arc that has this, then go ahead and just put on Proud Force. Proud Force works great on her, okay? I had nowhere else to put 2 points, so I have Attack Up 2, one of the more relatively efficient attack ups. Why not? Crit Up 2. That's kind of just for Rabbit Labyrinth. And also if my non-crits happen to not be capping, then there's a little bit more there. So little extra crit chance, not bad. Crit up 2 is fantastic. It's just always worth, I mean, 3 SC for 5, that's really good. It's better than crit up 3, it's better than crit up 1. I love crit up 2, it's fantastic. Of course you need the Slayers, that's the only way you're gonna cap. I don't know if there's any other combination of things that will get you to be capping on the boss. I mean, other units maybe, but for me, I absolutely need to have the Slayer and special boost in order to get the damage elevated so high. And I mean, this is just a flat 100% increase to your damage, which is brutal. Next, I'm also running Post for Honor. This is just in those early waves if I'm using a lot of abilities because we're not clearing instantly on. I want to make sure that my MP is at least topped up so that when I get to the boss phase, all of my skills going into it are going to get my Sharp Eyes procs. Who is totally worth that for me, especially since I'm not running Goddess Kiss to be able to get things back. Dual wield, of course, that's the only way I was able to get 2 weapons on her. She normally only has available 1. I'm then running Sword Boost and Sword High Boost for that sexy plus 40% damage. Then we've got a couple more damage boosts here. She didn't have a ton of options for what I was seeing. I do not have Solaris, so I do not have Machine High Boost. I am running Berserker, which I have found between how quickly we can kill a boss and how quickly we can get regen back with either Proud Force or Moonsaber, she can totally do Berserker for that extra boost to make her damage more and more reliable, so I found that to be good. And then also Giant Killing. I really enjoy on her. Normally, it's a little bit iffy because it doesn't help all of your physical attacks, so regular attacks don't get the bonus, but Giant Killing in her case, I have the room for it, and I think 20% on that is pretty solid. Plus, I don't like ulting in multiplayer much, but if there is me and at least one other ice unit, I will ult for her because she gives a stacking minus reduction to ice damage, and sometimes I'll do it anyway if the blueberries are just not doing enough damage because it does elevate all my pursuit damage even further. And that is it for the build. Let's go ahead and see what this actually looks like in game. Now, for most other challenges, if I can get away with it, I'm bringing Beast Hunter so that I can maximize overall drops. But because the only mechanic really here that you try to get through is DPS, this is what I choose to run. I absolutely think it's worthwhile to just run pure damage, and obviously others think that Medivh is totally worthwhile as well. Now, normally when I complete one of these, I usually get 1 full row of loot and then maybe 1 or 2 items if I have no stealing on. If I have Beast Hunter and I do it on one of the first 2 rounds, that will usually add a whole row of items in and of itself. Oh man, it feels good. All the Medivhs. So yeah, we just start things out, throw some Maelstroms, get some crits, hopefully get some loot dropping. Maybe do a sting in here. See, this is why I'm not bringing Thief Bangle. I'd rather have more reliability on the DPS phase with the boss. This is a case where I will definitely use my ult when I can. I'm going to Maelstrom and then start running for an S3. Then I'm going to queue up for a weak. Beautiful. Now, you can see the damage here is obviously pretty insane. This is the power of Medivh's and Icy Guardian. I mean, I'm sure Luke can do some crazy stuff too, but this feels pretty solid, and the damage is done. The damage is just done. I like running Medivh because if we don't have other Medivhs here, we have other people trying to do damage, maybe like a Kyle that is single-wielding a sword. Please don't do that, people. Don't. This fight's a DPS check. Don't bring a tank that does no damage. Please. Please. Alright, so basically at normal rewards, we didn't really get anything extra off of this, and part of that is because we cleared it so incredibly fast, but that's alright. It just means that we were able to clear it quite quickly, and I sure didn't get the extra drops that I could have gotten, but the reliability from running with Icy Guardian I think is worth the trade-off of not running with Beast Hunter. Alright, next we are on to the Kraken. Now the Kraken is an interesting one because it's not really that hard from a damage perspective. Obviously lightning units are really good for DPS, so Ray completely excels in here. He does an awesome job. I do not have Ray though. I've tried running Thunderbolt Sevia just to see how she would do, and she was okay, but at the end of the day, there's a big problem with this fight, and that is the HP thresholds where things transition and the boss hits you for a ton of damage. And most people are just simply not prepared for it. So instead, I choose to play the support player. Okay, so I am using Genn. Theria can do this just fine as well. I'm sure other supports could as well. The main thing is that when the thresholds come, you need to make sure that you have Blazer on the enemy at the very least. So bringing their strength down. Ideally, you want to also be protecting your allies. You want to be making sure everyone is healed up. And now this is a case where I run Maiden's Lovely Banquet just for the ease of using my glass records, but I can absolutely get away, especially if you don't have Maiden's Lovely Banquet, going with Beast Hunter and getting the extra drop. So I'll showcase that here. The only difference is in your build, you need to make sure to have Recast. Onto the actual build. So for this particular thing, because people usually just bring a ton of damage to this fight, and that usually means they are going to die. So since majority of players bring damage to this fight, I am going to be full on the supportiest support that I can be. So what we have here is infinite mana for Genn. So he can be throwing debuffs all fucking day. He can be class recording all day. And the reason for this is he has multiple sources of mana regen. So one, Science Flag doesn't matter as much other than the fact that his skills and regular attacks will be doing extra damage based on his int. That is just nice in general, so he'll be getting more damage, but also importantly, it is a neutral damage staff. So you can replace this with any neutral damage staff. That just means he gets any neutral damage bonuses to his regular attacks, which means Goddess Kiss will heal more. I also like to run Apocalypse Staff on him so that when you are healing, if things maybe would heal half HP on someone, they might crit and heal them to full. However, it makes your regular attacks not quite as reliable, which means Goddess Kiss doesn't as much. And this build is basically just saying, hey, we're never going to run out of MP again. Divine Law on him as well. This gives you Advanced Magic Circle, Auto Advanced Magic Circle. He doesn't come with a Magic Circle period because he has his own mana regen in a skill called Drink of Cola. If you're running Theria, she already comes with something like that, so you could instead just run something like Mummy Suit, so you get a free revive just in case you need it. Cool. We've got Radstone for cast speed because we need to hit that magic 70% cast speed to get Glass Record off, which you don't need Glass Record to make this work. You can just be a support that is helping people. If you're Theria, for God's sakes, if you want to be a good support healer, please don't use God Heal. Like, take it off your character altogether so you're not accidentally doing it. Just run a Starlight Heal. It's an AoE heal. She's going to heal people to full anyway. It'll take an extra second, but you can spam it and it will still give your entire team shields anyway, and it's not going to slow things down. It's really frustrating when people just use Therias, and especially if you do it on fucking auto. Don't auto in multiplayer, you dickhead. Please. Just try. Please. Just participate. I don't care if you come in with unoptimal units, if you're doing almost no damage, even if you're a Kyle single-wielding in a fire boss fight. Just don't play on fucking auto, please. Anyway, so we've got Advanced Magic Circle, we have Goddess Kiss going, and then we have Drink of Cola. We have some MP bumped up as well. 3 of our accessories here all bump up our max MP, which is great. And then we also have Mark of the Existence, so every time we cast a spell, 10% chance, basically just not use mana. Technically, we get it refunded to us, so we use it and it goes down, but we can't really abuse that in any sort of way. The main thing is that we effectively got the spell for free, which is awesome. Alright, so taking a look at our actual skills on Genn, we have Miracle Fluid and Gram Protection. So this is basically just to compensate for people not building quite well enough. In general, if someone has a few HP ups, especially some of the big ones on their units, when the phase changes come in, if there is a strength debuff on the Kraken, he shouldn't be one-shotting anyone. But if people are built really glass cannony, which you shouldn't, please don't, yeah, you could just get wiped out. So as the main support and being a purely support unit, I am doing everything I can to keep people alive, and if they go down, I want to be able to bring them up and keep the fight rolling. So I have Miracle Fluid so that I can go ahead and get them revived. You can also just use regular Resurrect. I use Miracle Fluid just for flavor's sake. I then also have Grand Protection because, like all of his other spells, it can be cast canceled and it just gives a flat 20% physical damage reduction, which can help nerf some of that damage coming in. Recast is only on because I'm going to be running Beast Hunter to get us a little bit of extra drops, and I feel like I kind of can. Again, if you have Maiden's Lovely Banquet, it's totally fine to just do that. I kind of like just the ease of not having to think about it, but getting basically double drops is pretty worth running Beast Hunter, so this is what we're doing. Alright, then we have a bunch of HP ups. These may not all be the most optimal, but I have extra points, so I like to just make myself super tanky. So we've got my 3 main, HP plus 2, HP up max, and 4. And then in this particular case, I'm also running 3 because I had 4 extra points to spare, and I felt like having the little extra padding pretty solid. We have some MP ups because, again, we have 2 sources that heal us on MP based on our max. So in addition to our gear boosting our max, we want some MP ups to actually jack it up even further. For the record, MP up 3 and MP up max are the most efficient, but I am using all of them here just to maximize my MP. We are boosting up our mind just to make sure that we are healing as much as possible. I opted to not be running Apocalypse Staff, so I want my neutral healing to just be even better instead of just critting potentially for higher ones. We have Tranquility, so that if our HP happens to get low, again, an extra 20% to our mind means that we're going to be healing even more. So just more likely of going from red back to full, which is what we're looking for. And since we're only healing with Glass Record, we want to make sure those are meaty heals. This isn't God Heal that's just going to always top people up because it's so strong. This is kind of a medium heal. This will make it feel like a powerful heal. And we have Awaken, so that on the off chance we get low, we don't have the awkwardness of waiting a couple seconds to try to get the heal off and hope we don't die. We can at least have a little bit of wiggle room so that first time we just get healed up for free and we can just focus on keeping everybody else alive. And it synergizes with all our HP ups as well. Now we have Healing Boost, Healing High Boost. Again, I'm just jacking up that healing, making it happen so that people get topped up hopefully with a single Glass Record, maybe 2. Then we have Spirit Breath as well. This isn't that necessary just because he's pure support and he's just casting constantly, but when you do want to be throwing some attacks, you can throw those out, and his S2 actually is an SCT battery, so this will let you get those back quicker. So as you're cast canceling lots of things, I can actually go in, weave in one of these, apply a buff to people that will give them more, and then keep casting my other things. So I like to do that. We've got High Level Magic Chant, because again, we need to hit that magic 70% cast speed, and that is it for the build. Now, if you're doing something similar, but you're running Theria, which is going to be much, much more common, I would suggest you at a bare minimum put on the basic Blazer buff or debuff. Put on, yeah, I mean, just make sure the Blazer's on. If you can put on Drain as well and Weak to make sure that elemental DPS are getting some more damage out of the deal, your physical damage dealers are having an easier time. Hopefully, if you have good DPS people in, they're already hitting damage cap, but you're going to end up having people that are not built completely optimally sometimes, so any little help they can get is going to be beneficial. Just keep that in mind. Try to help other people out. Don't get mad because, oh, they don't have anything. Why are they coming in with this 4-star weapon? Well, they're doing the best they can, as long as they're participating. As long as they're not playing on auto like some fucking nerds. All right, we'll cut that out. Let's go ahead and get this started up then, so you can see what one of these are going to look like with Gen. Hopefully we'll get some decent DPS in here, because with this build, we do rely on at least one person being able to do some damage, and this looks like a great team, which I've been seeing much and much more of. I mean, Logzeus is going around. I wasn't lucky enough to get him, but I can play pretty easily in a world where Logzeus exists, which is awesome. All right, so we started with a Shallow Words. We're going to get a recast, and then we're just going to start throwing some Glass Records. On the off chance people don't have Pirate's Feast, we're going to go ahead and give them some skill ups right now. We probably got at least 2 off in there, which is nice. And now on to the boss. So again, we're going to be laying down debuffs. We're going to be buffing our team. Going to be boosting SCT, just because that's what Gen does. Alright, so we're going to do Drain. We're going to do this. We're going to do Extremely Bad Chemical. Alright, I actually kind of screwed up the order on that a little bit, which is fine. The damage is happening well enough. I'm going to go ahead and cast cancel. Get protection up right away. Make sure recast is on me. I've kind of been talking, and so I haven't been paying attention too much to things, but you can see everybody's topped up right now, which is what we're looking for. Damage is coming in. Everybody's feeling pretty healthy, pretty good. Still have debuffs on. Damage is still happening. Alright, we're about to have the transition now. So we're going to make sure that he has his strength debuffs on him. There we go. So we got that. And now you can see his buffs came on screen. We're taking almost no damage from this, by the way, which is great. Now we're going to Glass Record, get the Ray healed up right away. You don't need to do that. Please stop God healing. I've got this, dude. Okay, so Shallow Words just to make sure some more damage can happen for people. Okay, there we go. Good, good, good. Let's go ahead and throw some physical attacks, see if we can flip, just because Gen has the ability to flip their debuffs to negative. It looks like we got some of them, which is great. Let's go ahead and do the recast. Our buff looks like it's wearing off. And he's dead. Beautiful. So that's exactly how we want to do it. Notice during the transitional period, nobody took more than like 50% damage. That's what it should be. If you do not have a support unit and somebody isn't using Blazer at least, it's easy to have a full party wipe. It can just happen. So it doesn't hurt to just spend 2 points, put basic Blazer on your units for this fight, even if you're just a pure DPS. It's only 2 SC. Just do it. It's worth it. And now you can see because of Beast Hunter, we brought it along, and so we got this extra reward. So we had to work a little extra hard just because we have to make sure recast is maintained, but I think that that trade-off is usually worth it. If you want an easier time and you have it, Maiden's Lovely Banquet works just fine. Another option is, especially if you have invested some points into it, Skyship. because its passive is the overshield basically that you can get, and it's a pretty solid shield once you actually get it maxed out. So you can run that on somebody like Gen, who wants neutral damage anyway, makes his Goddess Kisses even more reliable. Even on a different support like Theria, it can work as well. The main thing is, if you have any SR Stardust, or SSR Stardust, you can jack that up, and if it's up to level 10, it's going to give a pretty good shield. So when that 30% threshold comes in and it does the big damage transition, just before that, you could pop a big meaty shield so that they can absorb, like, I don't know what it is, like 2, 3, 4,000 HP of a hit or something, and that'll probably keep people alive as well. And in my opinion, that's probably the biggest threatening part. And then once he gets down to like 10%, he starts going crazy and CCing everybody. It can be rough, but usually if you have at least 1 or 2 good DPS units, he can get bursted down pretty easily. All right, on to the Ant Empress herself, the latest and finest that we have. Now, I've seen a lot of people having trouble with this, and I think maybe just because its mechanics are a little bit different than some people maybe know or understand, and maybe I don't even know them completely, but I've observed a few things since I've been playing, and I think I've got some strategy down overall. So I've got a little bit of a different build that I like to do, and you can kind of take the information of why I do it and translate it to whatever the hell your account can do. All right, so the biggest thing with this fight is that when she gets up close, if you are around her for too long, or I don't know exactly what triggers it, but she does this like kind of pseudo time stop melee attack that literally just insta-kills people. I mean, I have had a Kyle barrier available on my team. I have just gone into Rem Beast mode, having well over 30k HP, protection on, and I have still been completely one-shot from nothing. So it is an insta-kill. I do not think it is just some damage. It is insta-kill. Oh, and that is with Celestial Mass going as well. It is a brutal hit. She just fucking murders you. So what I have found as a good strategy is to just hang back. So if you have units that can do damage from afar, they're a sniper, whatever, works very well. The other thing that is really important, if you can put it into the build in some way, is while its resistances to ailments are overall mostly nil, it is inherently weak to blind. And so it seems to me that that is the main mechanic here, is you keep it blind the entire fight, because the insta-kill melee, it can miss. So having basically a 50% chance to miss this insta-kill is huge, because your blueberries are going to be running in there and trying to smack it because, ooh, I can use my Kyle finally because it's fire and this is actually weak to fire, so I can do some damage now, yay! And then they just get murdered right away. It's kind of funny, but also they die a lot. So we want to keep the blueberries alive so that they can do the little bit of damage they do. So my V build has me able to do really good damage. Like I've literally soloed it at the end when it's got like a quarter HP left. It's not too bad. He's pretty tanky. He's pretty durable. But I also want to maximize drops. I don't need all of my extra slots because this is just strictly an auto attack build on my V, which is one of the things I really love about him. You can make him be any element of DPS if you have the right tools for it. So we're running Beast Hunter. Gear. This is fun. I've never used this bow in my life. Turns out really fucking good here because we're just doing regular attack damage. So critical attack rate plus 3%. Cool. Synergizes with our Rabbit Labyrinth so that we can hopefully have a greater chance of getting a few extra steals. Solid. Plus, when your HP is over 50%, which his always is, fire attack damage increased by 10%. Dope. Love it. All right, the Fire Sword from the Fire UR. Great. Extra critical rate. Again, helps our Rabbit Labyrinth. And fire physical attack damage up 15%. So again, more multipliers, which is great because his damage has a harder time capping when it's only regular attacks, at least in my experience. So we're doing everything that we can to get it up there. His crits, because of the multipliers we have in place, will pretty much always be crits, and his crits will be crits. No, his crits will almost always cap. So the more that we can be critting, the more reliable his damage is going to be, which is great. We are then running, again, the ones that I said before, Thief Bangle and Rabbit Labyrinth, so that hopefully between crits and getting a little bit of kills here and there, we can get a little bit extra in addition to Beast Hunter, and V does so good in this particular case that he doesn't really need more than that. All right, on to skills. So this is kind of similar to what I said with the other fight, which is if you can afford it, it's only a couple SC, put some support in here. So I have Drain and Weak that I can always keep up on the boss. So the fact that I'm making it be fire means that we are going to be getting an inherent multiplier on our damage because its resistance is weak to fire. Then this weak is going to add an extra 25% damage because it's reducing it further into the negative, which is awesome. And then we're also reducing its defense with drain, meaning we can do even more damage yet. So even though we're doing normal attacks that aren't normally capping, we're more closely going to be capping now, which is really, really awesome. Then we, of course, just in case, have a bunch of HP ups. This is just so that if we happen to take a stray attack or two, we can survive a little bit better. The main threat with this strategy is that it uses Nether Tempest, or at least the same animation for it, which is the board-wide strong earth type attack, and I actually have some times that it will catch my V off guard, so I might tweak my build a little bit at some point to get a little bit more HP in here, but for right now it's doing just fine. I've got Magic Up Max in here just because I've got things that can make my physical damage a bit better based on magic, and I had the extra points, so I put it in. As I said before, Crit Up 2 is super worth. I did not splurge for the others because I just don't think the bang for your buck is quite there, and I wanted a nice balance between neutral damage and crit, and I got a pretty fair amount of crit chance off of my weapons already, so I didn't want to waste the SC here when I have more utility elsewhere. So we can see here I have Insect Killer, which only costs 3, which is great, so the fact that we're only using regular attacks for most of our damage is awesome. Then we've got Special Boost to make that even better, so this is just basically a flat plus 100% damage to all our regular attacks, which is nice. Sword Equip, because we need it. Blind Research. This is essential or this build doesn't work, period. Now, if you do not have the weapons I have, you can forego some damage and you can use the Ninja Star. There's a Ninja Star that gives you a chance to blind on regular attacks, and I think there's actually an accessory from one of the collabs that also gives you a chance to blind. But I found that just having Blind Research on somebody like V that has really good auto attacks can work just fine. I would think somebody like Fall, she's not super meta, she didn't get buffed, but I guarantee she could be a good blinder here. She is very good at applying ailments. You could actually run her if you wanted with the Witch House R arc, give her extra chance to apply ailments. She comes with Stun Research, and you could give her Blind Research, and she gets double hit count on her auto attacks when you have her passive skill for like quick shots maxed out. It's very similar to Madine's effect, so she's even more likely to do researches. So if you just want to make a purely support build for somebody who doesn't necessarily do a ton of damage, Fall could potentially be the thing if the other units you have are just not quite cutting it. So fruit for thought. I'm excited to see what they do with her, with either giving us, you know, some buffs or a swimsuit unit, please. All right, then I have Fire Critical Raise, just again, more crit chance and ensuring that when we do hit criticals, we are capping on our damage for sure. Weak point boost, super important. This is an awesome, awesome boost to your damage. Even though he doesn't specialize in fire damage, all this stuff that we have compounds to allow almost any unit to do good fire damage if it is something like on our regular attacks. He can be converted into any element for any fight. I mean, this is kind of true of anybody with good regular attacks. I could probably do the same thing with Baron if I wanted to, but in this case I want a sniper, and V's the best sniper in the game. So here we are. Now I have Phase Change. Again, I put up some Magic Up Max in order to just boost my damage a little bit. Phase Change is going to give me a portion of that into my regular attacks so that in general I'm just elevating my damage a little more. Dual Wield we of course need because maximizing damage we always need Dual Wield. And that's how we are equipping double weapons. So let's go ahead and hop in to one of these fights. All right, like our last couple of runs, this is looking pretty optimal. Laugzeus, and side of Laugzeus. So hopefully this should go pretty smoothly for us. The damage should not be a problem unless they're built poorly, but I assume it's going to be fine. Since they're probably just going to start dropping bombs, I'm just going to start out spamming autos and hope that a couple of stray crits might be able to get me something. Gonna try to run up and get some angles, some pass-throughs. So this next one, I'm going to go ahead and use my Beast Hunter in order to get the extra drops out of it, in hopes that I'm going to get plenty of other drops from the boss. Hopefully my Labyrinth will come into play at some point, because I'm pretty sure the honeycomb slash eyes slash waffles are going to be a thing, and I think those are probably only from the boss. So we're going to start out by moving over to a corner. We're going to target the boss, start throwing a couple auto attacks till we get at least one blind off, and then we'll start throwing out some debuffs. All right, a blind has happened, which means as they're DPSing things, they at least have less likely of a chance to get hit. And then I'm going to go ahead and do one Null Melt. I don't like slowing things down, but it makes this much more reliable to just throw one. Do you see this? You see that? Okay, so now they lost one. That can happen. That is fine. All right, now we are booking, and I'm going to continue throwing some damage. You can see Laug is just having all sorts of fun here. It's going very, very well. And again, even though they're getting taken out, damage is still pretty okay. We're staying far away. It's got a revive, which is great. Now, this is where things can come in and hurt a little bit. They managed to stay up. I have a decoy coming. I'm going to go ahead and book and then keep attacking. All right, I got to paralyze off. Hopefully this is enough. 10% is going to be a little bit rough. I'm getting a heal from this guy, so that's cool. Now with V, his S3 actually does really good break damage, so that's an option to be able to do some other stuff. All right, he's paralyzed. Hopefully me and this guy can finish things off. Otherwise, we're about 80% on Yezidril, so hopefully we can just hold off long enough to be able to get a res and then finish things off. But I'm thinking we can do this. It's blinded, it's paralyzed, like it should be done. Boom, easy, taken care of. Barely an inconvenience. And we can see there, it was a small wave. There was only 4 trees, and so we didn't quite have enough for a full row, but we still got some extra here. Hey, look at that. We got a waffle. All right, so last but not least, we are on to the Limit Breaker fields. For this one, these are not too incredibly difficult, so my main goal here is just simply to maximize on drops. So I am running Rem, who still is a queen of burst DPS. She is absolutely phenomenal, and I love her so much. We are running Beast Hunter because she doesn't really need extra fancy stuff. These fights are not that hard. We don't need survivability. We don't need a bunch of extra damage. She does plenty of damage to basically solo these things on her own, and you're usually going to have 1 or 2 other DPS units, maybe even 3, to be able to wail on these things. And I'm not going to show all of these different fights for Limit Breakers because they're all kind of similar, right? They have multiple HP thresholds, and they will have some sort of mechanic where if you don't kill them fast enough, they're going to get really annoying. One of them might lock up all your abilities, so you can only use regular attacks and specials, and I don't even know what the other ones do because pretty much just always win them anyway. Let's go ahead and take a look at the build. So we are again on that Pure Blade game plan. Not only is it some big dick damage, it is also neutral element, which means she is going to be doing more damage with regulars. We also have Gorm's Gleaming Hammer, also known as Gorm's Glistening Rod, Gorm's Spectacular Schlong, Gorm's Sweaty Salamander. Okay, we're moving on. And then we are running, of course, Thief Bangle and Rabbit Labyrinth, just to try to get any little bit of extra drops we can. Actual build, I'm not running any spells on her, because again, these specific fights are not that incredibly hard, so I'm not worried about it. I am running 1 HP plus just to get a little extra buffer on 90% of the units. This is the most efficient SE cost for the actual HP that you get back. There's very few units that make it more worthwhile. You have to basically have a base HP of like 5,000 or 6,000 to be any better than this. So we have some attack ups. I don't normally do stats on units, but because she actually gets more of a benefit out of it, it works out. She's running 2 weapons that are both over 300 strength, and her Demon Horn actually gets her up even more. She kind of likes strength, and just makes her a little bit more reliable, and I found that it works. Crit up 2, that's just for the Rabbit Labyrinth, just so that we're more reliable on getting some of those drops, or at least getting crits, which could lead to drops. Special boost. As a side note, Brute Slayer. Brute Slayer is pretty freaking good for these things. All of the bosses are pretty much, I mean, even if you wanted to use a unit like this over in the other fights, Brute Slayer is going to be good for the insect boss. We have the Kraken boss, which is a fish. The dragon's the only one not covered, and like I said, I'm using Medine for that anyway. This covers the bird and the beast. And what's the other one? Undead? It doesn't matter. He dies right away anyway. Nobody cares. We have Sword Equipped so that we can use the Pure Blade. Pose for Glory. If I did not have Pose for Glory, then no, I would just be using Pose for Glory. But it's especially good right now just because whenever you get kills, it's got like a ×10 multiplier on it. So instead of getting 5 seconds back, you get like 20, 30, 50. I don't know. You just get basically topped up when you get a kill or 2. It's insane. So yeah, I'm sure they'll address it at some point, but for now, ball out for only 2 SC. It's great. Goddess Kiss. Yeah, I mean, anybody with decent regular attacks, if you can match elements so you get all of their elemental bonuses, it works out. And in this particular case, Goddess Kiss on Rem usually ends up netting me like 50 plus MP per regular attack that it procs on, which is pretty solid. We have Dual Wield, of course, Sword High Boost in order to get some extra damage since we're utilizing that. We have Hammer High Boost to boost her damage from using a hammer since all of her other bonuses are built in off of hammers anyway. We are running Celestial Mass. This is kind of for for other fights coming into play as well, but if there's just something that comes up where she's getting hit a bit, just to make sure we aren't randomly getting one shot by something, Celestial Mass is just great. We're going to use some of our MP, we're going to cut the physical damage literally in half, and it's going to be awesome. And the fact that her regular attacks do enough damage to just keep Goddess Kiss coming up a lot, this turns her into quite a bit of a bruiser. So if you're literally the only unit doing anything at all, you can probably just survive and just hold out with auto attacks and just slowly ping things down, like worst case. And then I have your Demon-like Way, which is from the ReZero collab that came with her. Basically on battle start, we get Grand Brave, we get critical, and we get speed, so she gets to move quicker, which is generally just nice. I especially like speed because it lets me in the bird fight move quick enough that I can run up and get an S1 off before I get blown back, and that's just a little extra damage, which is always nice. Okay, so there's something else that I don't get. Like, why would this dude waste orbs running Final Oath on Laugzea? For stats, is it literally all you got? Stonewall is the only thing that's like maybe somewhat applicable sometimes. Alright, let's go. Ready to see the advantage Rem has? Oh no, I have no skill charges. Demon mode, I have skill charges. I killed everyone, yay. Granted, Laugzea did come in, probably a quick trigger or a skill charge one, but still got the kill, which means maybe Thief Bangle. Now we're looking for a wave that has 5 or 6 enemies in it for us to Beast Hunter on. That's the goal. This isn't enough. They ain't it, champ. So we already have our charges because Pose for Glory gets us up there. So we're just gonna come in and throw some S2s. Yay! We murdered everything. Surprise, surprise. Feels good. Alright, this one looks great. Beast Hunter. Then they're gonna come in and hit everything. And on to the boss wave. See, this one we don't have to worry about the pushbacks. We're just gonna dash right in right away. We do that. We're gonna drop an S2, another S2, and throw some S1s just to make sure things are on cooldown. Alright, he's already his first damage threshold because 4 DPS units does things. Alright, should be broken soon. Alright, can do some damage. A little bit laggy, but it's alright. And he's immune again. Just waiting. Saving my Demon Horn. Damage is going just fine right now, so beautiful. Alright. Once this one gets towards the end, I'm going to go ahead and Demon Horn just to jack up my damage even more. So we can get through these last 2 damage thresholds. And he died. He is died. For people using Laugzea, please don't use Abyssal Gate. That magic sucks. It takes like 20 seconds to do damage. It's crazy. Just use Black Hole. Black Hole is just better. I don't even know why they bother giving him Abyss Gate. I'm just saying. Cheers. Laters. Alright, well, that is all I have for you guys for today. This is a little bit different. I've had a few different people ask me to do things like account walkthroughs and just kind of explain my logic between like how I build units or the different types of builds that I have for them. And this is the current progress I have, and I don't know, it's always felt a little bit weird. I wouldn't think people would get a ton of benefit out of it, but maybe it's just entertaining to see people's accounts and stuff. So if that's something people want to see, maybe just tell me why and the type of things you actually want to see, because it doesn't feel quite right in my head. I don't know, but this is kind of the closest thing I've done to that, where I didn't filter myself in some way to make a build that's accessible for people. It is me using the tools that I have to the maximum capabilities to try to make the most reliable units for each of these individual challenges. So it is not going to be super relatable to everyone, but at the very least, I'm hoping that you guys can take some of the logic and mechanics that I've gone over in here and see how that can translate over to your accounts and the things that you can do. At least that's kind of the goal. So if that was helpful to you, please let me know down in the comments below if there's things I could have done to maybe make this a little bit better and more informational, helpful, whatever you want to call it. Let me know that too. Oh, I almost forgot. I was going to say at the beginning of the video, we broke 400 subs with our playing Doctor Fixing Your Shit video that we did. So yeah, we're up over 400. Woo, that's pretty big for me. Yeah, just the fact that like 400 real like humans came here, saw this face talking, and didn't just like instantly run away. That's pretty cool. I like it. I like it a lot. So all you cool people out there that are hitting like and subscribing and blah, 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 all that fun stuff, I appreciate it. It makes it feel like I'm actually helping people and doing stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a dumb mobile game, you know? But it's my dumb mobile game, and it's your dumb mobile game, and I enjoy it quite a bit. It is a lot of fun. And right now is easily the best time to be playing Last Claudia, and also just starting it in general. I mean, this multiplayer stuff is just so fun, isn't it? I mean, they knocked it out of the park, man. This stuff is so good. I love it so much. And for all the people out there that are too weak to be doing multiplayer right now, I understand. You think that this was just for endgame players. The thing is, the last several updates we have gotten have just purely been adding things for non-endgame stuff, like almost exclusively. This is some of the first stuff we've had that is like super long-term grind, and it's awesome. And with these updates, we've gotten massive quality of life stuff. I mean, look at the friend gacha right now that's going. Burn all your friend points because holy shit, it's valuable. Alchemy is better than ever. We can do so much more stuff with alchemy. Like, getting people maxed ability boards is so much easier now than it used to be. These limit breaker fields, you can get carried through them. You can go in with a semi-competent unit, get to the end, and rewards on these things are just awesome. Tours, the 2 new tours that were added, if you can get all the way up to Gourd Mines at the end, the resources you get are through the roof. Is it a long time to get there? Yes, it is. If you've been ignoring tours, you have months of grinding to do to get there. And for the rest of us that have been already doing it and getting up there, you know, it feels pretty great. But you can work your way up to it, and you just get tons and tons of enhancement materials, and now things for the Godforge as well. It is just, it is so good. It feels like the resource economy is so much healthier than any other time in Last Claudia history. And maybe there's some exceptions in some cases. I haven't really interfaced with the mega clusters too much because I don't have anybody that I'm committing to 5-star yet. In general, it's just some great stuff. I'm loving the game. Hopefully you are too. So till next time, thank you very much for your time. Go forth and murder things. Go forth and murder things. Bye.